All right, we are here with another episode from the beautiful city of Shanghai, back out in the park. This is probably going to be a regular setup we have going on here. Behind us in this pagoda, I don't know if they're going to be quieting down or not. Hopefully they will not be. We have some uncles ripping some smooth jazz. I'm not sure if the software I'm going to run this audio through, if you're still going to be able to hear it or not, but we certainly can hear it. And we are here today to talk about another elusive part of Chinese culture. Previously, we talked about this idea of miànzi, and we tried to make it clear that that was not a comprehensive course, if you will, on the term of miànzi, a mere introduction, because this concept of face is at an interplay with many other concepts in Chinese culture, and one of them, the one we're going to talk about today, is the Chinese is Renqing. How would you even begin to translate that?
Wow. Actually, I haven't thought about that too much, but Renqing will be like, maybe you can, I would suggest maybe we can just first go with the literal character. We know Renqing is two characters.
It is two characters.
Ren refers to human.
Correct.
Qing refers to like emotion or...
Yes.
Yeah,
that's how I would also translate those two words. But now when you put them together, it's a little more complex than like human emotion. It's part of it. Emotion is part of it. Sentiment. The word sentiment, maybe?
Yeah.
What else? We wrote some things down here. Obligations, favors, reciprocity. We were talking before we turned the camera on.
Yeah.
You liked the word reciprocity.
Yeah, because I feel like to me, like maybe because maybe from our generation, we're considered, because our understanding of Renqing is it's not slightly different, but maybe I think it's I know it's like mixed definition, but to me, I would think like reciprocity maybe take the most of the proportion of the whole definition. So I would suggest reciprocity would be the closest explanation for Renqing in English. But I also asked other of my foreign friends, but what they perceive Renqing is they feel like it's something more than reciprocity. That's why, which make those people feel like crazy about, like they just don't know like how to apply or understand Renqing in China. Because the thing is, also maybe maybe Max will have the same kind of a question, because I feel like at the first you review Renqing as just simple like favorite plus reciprocity. Then what happened to you?
Again, this is something that Renqing, I actually never even encountered that term until a couple of months ago. And I think I'd actively seen it in action and knew there was this thing that was more than miànzi attached to it, but I didn't know that there was this term for it. And so, given that, before we turned the camera on, I was like, this is going to be more of a genuine conversation where I actually don't really know much, and the questions I'm going to ask you are very much coming from my honest confusion of what this term means and what it is, and how we can hopefully use it to our advantage, or to their advantage, our audience's advantage. Yeah. Hopefully that's what we're kind of doing this for. We're trying to help you all understand the things that I was not lucky enough to get a briefing about before I arrived here. So Renqing.
I have a question for you. Maybe it's a good start for our audience to just let's just put them in your shoes.
Let's put them in my shoes.
How do you view Renqing like before? What's your explanation about Renqing?
So again, there's this concept of miànzi, right? Now this is like almost as you said in our previous episode, this idea of like, it's almost like social credit, right? It's almost like a quantified rating. It's not actually quantified, obviously, but it almost is that way. Renqing is, as that Qing part in Renqing suggests, it is more of the emotional part, right? Miànzi as we've discussed, is it's not a formula, but there are certain things that you can have up your sleeve, some tricks in your pocket to pull out, where it's like this will be an auto miànzi giver, right? Now, Renqing is highly tied to one's emotional intelligence,
So you
right?
have to feel it.
If someone does not have an inherent ability for emotional intelligence and how to view situations and perceive situations in an appropriate way, more from the emotional standpoint, Renqing and nailing down whatever acts that are within this concept of Renqing is going to be very difficult.
Exactly.
Emotional intelligence is a foundation for one's ability to perform whatever acts one needs to perform to be aligning with this idea of Renqing.
I agree with that.
So I still haven't answered your question. And part of the reason is because I don't even know if I have an answer. I know it has to do more with emotions, and it's more about like, miànzi is like an outside thing. Miànzi is how does other see me? Renqing is more about like the actual psychological condition of that person. Right? And so miànzi is I am doing this thing for this person so that other people see them as better when you give them miànzi. Renqing is focusing on that person's like emotional psychological condition and how they view the situation. And I am probably wrong. So
It's not wrong, but I feel like yeah. Cause while I actually, I very appreciate how you're just giving the question. Because the thing is, while you like bring all stuff out, I was trying to say like how to like just just differentiate like we both like all these concepts are interplay with each other in some way. So when you suggest like so we already know that means like how people like think that it's like how others view them. But Renqing I would suggest, because we've also talked before, like miànzi is something happen when you're like social, like interact with other people. Renqing will be like something more specific on when it happens more specific on you with certain kind of person in certain kind of situation. And I also agree like all these things will happen only when you have a certain good foundation of the emotional intelligence.
right.
Because the most tricky part for most of people will be sometimes the scenario happened to a lot of people. Even it happened to me when I was younger. Some people already offer you a Renqing. Remember, Renqing can happen. That's why sometimes Renqing can be viewed as a favor, or when it's happened, like you will also be like you also be asked like 他给你了一个Renqing, he or she offered a Renqing to you.
So Renqing is something you can give in almost the same way you can give miànzi.
Exactly.
My understanding prior to what you are now explaining to me is Renqing was more, it's like the emotion of the person. It's not something transferable. You're now saying someone A can give B Renqing.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's keep going with that, because I think the key is we want to find a word that maybe that is kind of our goal here, is let's like pull this out and really find a good word or set of English words that really encapsulate what this means.
That's the goal.
Okay, that's the goal.
So let's keep continuing with that. So that's why I want to make clear that Renqing, like I'm only saying that from my perspective. Maybe for all the others, all feel the same. Like Renqing are transferable. Like they can. I mean, at this context, some context can be viewed as a favor. But the things only happen when you think it is a favor, or favor from someone. If you receive a Renqing, which means you receive certain kind of something like similar to a favor from someone. But all things happen when, as Max said, when it's come to like some people have certain level of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Most people are so a lot of people don't have the instinct or the emotional intelligence in this context. They are unaware of like they're being given a Renqing or a special favor from some kind of person, which make all these kind of things like more complex. Because the logic for how Renqing plays in this kind of context will be, if B offer a Renqing to A, the next things will happen only when A notice it's a Renqing to him or her. But sometimes a lot of people...
Wouldn't that be the case with miànzi as well? Right? Like if you do something you think it's miànzi, but the other person doesn't
Exactly.
Okay, so this is not... So it's not about your intent. It is more about the perception of B. It is not about A's intent. If A has the intent of giving Renqing, of giving miànzi, let's stick with Renqing because we're talking about this. If one has the intent to give B Renqing, but B does not perceive the Renqing being given, Renqing is not at play. So the perception of the one receiving is far more important, or the only thing that's important, and the intent of A is not important. Is that what you're saying?
Hold on. That would be a lot of things. I appreciate that. That would be
simpler. It's not about the giver's intent. It is about the receiver's perception of the transfer of Renqing.
I would suggest both of them are pretty important, but I would suggest, because for the people who are new to this Renqing, probably it will be more important to know like that the perception of Renqing will be more important from a beginner. I would suggest that, because that's how everything works like that. When you don't know how to apply some kind of principle, when you don't know how to do that, you have to observe. By observe, like you know how to perceive those things. So I would suggest the perceiving Renqing is more important than how
the
to know
intent
how to,
of the giver.
Intent, yes.
Okay. But we still really haven't talked about what it is.
That's why maybe things from our perspective, we all agree that perceiving is more important than intent.
Okay.
Maybe we can start from how to perceive it. Then we are.
Now let's talk about what does B. We have A.
Yeah.
Gives B. So when we say B, it is the receiver of the Renqing when there's a transfer of Renqing.
Yeah.
We said B needs to perceive it.
Yeah.
A can have the intent, but it's not as important as B perceiving it. What does B need to perceive? What tangible things does B need to perceive? Tangible in the sense of, like, let's describe the things, not actual physical objects, obviously. This is about the emotional world. What are some of the things that B needs to perceive being given to them in a situation where we can say Renqing is at play? Perhaps we could start with a situation. Would that make it a little more? Okay.
Start with situation.
Let's give us a situation here.
Maybe you can, because I feel like you have more questions than I do.
I have questions, but again, if I have these questions, I don't even know necessarily a situation in which I can
maybe
offer.
You can bring up some kind of like situation, before you feel very confused and you still like can't figure them out now. So maybe you can start with that situation.
How about, would this be a 3-person scenario would be better, or a 2-person scenario is better?
Start from 2.
Okay. So what would be a 2-person scenario? You help me out, please. What would be a 2-person scenario?
Okay. Let's say like, let's start with that. For example, so now like you're the person who giving me a Renqing.
I'm giving you Renqing.
So
I am A, you are B.
Yes.
Okay.
So A is Max, B is Phoebe. So now Max is giving Renqing to Phoebe. So, and to be specific, we want to make sure like the Renqing is tangible, which I will describe this Renqing from.
Right. So what is the situation we're in which I am the one giving and you are the one receiving? What is our situation at the moment?
Yes, I'm describing that. So you're giving me a Renqing, and the Renqing is, to be sure, is you offer me an opportunity which enable me to go to like to go to a really famous company.
Okay, so I am giving you an introduction to someone that I know at a company that might really further your career.
Exactly.
Okay.
Remember, at this point, I did. So at this point, maybe I didn't ask you before, or maybe I asked your help before, but then now like you reach out to me. You say, hey, maybe there is some opportunity I think feels good for you. I offer you this. But remember, since this is a renqing, which means it can be viewed as a favor, but because it's a renqing, which means you actually don't need to do like a lot of help. All you need to do maybe just like just inform the guy you know in that company, and and leave all the rest to me. But the key is, if I really go there, the key is I go there, and luckily, I've been accepted by the company. From then on, I owe you.
You owe me. Okay.
Renqing. But the renqing is because you give me.
So that reminds me of the reciprocity aspect.
Exactly.
So you now owe me. But it's not miànzi. Because miànzi would have been, I talked to this person at the company, said you were great. You're amazing. You would be a great hire. That's giving you miànzi. Now you being in the interview and talking about maybe how we knew each other, oh, isn't he amazing? And also the other person would say, oh, that's giving me the face. Now this renqing is now the fact that you owe me for helping you in this situation. That's the renqing.
And also, sometimes it happens. It's not. So some people will reveal renqing a favor is like, oh, because you're the boss, and also you know me well. You just offer me this because now you give me a renqing. No, renqing happens only between those two people. Like first, have the like precondition, like we are friends already, and we both know each other kind of well, and you know what I want to some extent, but. This kind of favor is not that because you know I want the job. The pre-situation will be this.
Yes.
But the favor will be like, oh, I offer you a job. It's like I offer you an opportunity. It would be something like just lighter than a real job. But you did offer me something. But the rest of things I need to figure out. But still, whenever it's a successful things or I failed at the interview of the company, I still own you.
Got it. Just the simple making that connection and giving you the opportunity, you now owe me, even if the opportunity I gave you once it was in your hands did not succeed.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see it all clearer now, just given how everything works here. Okay.
And also remember, renqing only happens when renting can happen between two like strangers. If it's the strangers, it's more of a favor. I just do you a favor because we don't know each other. I just give you help. But maybe after this favor, if one of them want to view this as a renting, then you can build up your like future relationship based on that. So it's very flexible. But again, because we have limited time, I would prefer just most renting will happen in the most setting will be those people who already know each other, like friends or coworkers or relatives or family members.
All right, so we've nailed down the reciprocity aspect of it.
Yeah.
Okay, it can be a favor.
Yeah.
So, okay, that sentence where you said, 我给你一个人情, or I give you a renqing, because we don't have a good word for this. That's in that situation, it's like I'm giving you a favor, right?
Yes.
Renqing in that situation would be translated to favor.
Yeah.
However, the foundation of this word, especially that qing aspect, what's the emotional aspect of it? What's the emotional aspect of it?
The emotional aspect will be. That's the key point. I think that's the most tricky part. Will be.
Yeah. Okay.
So everything went on well. It should work on well. It's like A, give the renqing, which is really fit for B's need. Also, B, perceive that well, know that it's a renqing. Because the thing is for our people, for Chinese people, will be like, we will never straight out like, oh, 我给你个人情. It will happen on Monday or Friday. The 人情 is about this
Right.
kind of
You don't.
things.
Yeah. You're not actually saying I'm giving you a Renqing.
But
You wouldn't
yeah,
explicitly say
exactly. But that's why, which I think is more important for that's as we stretch out today, more important for you to perceive the Renqing, because it's like if I feel like the key is about like if B perceives that well, he or she will know how to play well for the following session, which also will give A faces.
Now I think, right. Now we're bringing face back into it. So now I think I'm understanding the part where you said perception is maybe even more important than
Exactly.
the intent, because now if you're not able to, it's a lot easier to be like, I'm doing this person a favor. When you give it to them, it's a lot more clear.
Yeah.
It can be less clear sometimes when you're the receiver. You don't know how strenuous, how much they had to sacrifice to give you this opportunity, right? And if you don't perceive that, if you perceive their level of effort that they had to do
Yeah.
as less than it was, then you'd probably lose face.
Exactly.
So I think Renqing I'm starting to see as favor. I think I'm liking the word favor, but I just don't think we're still getting the full meaning yet. What do you think we're missing? If we were to say favor, what do you think we're missing?
Because I
from
feel
Renqing?
like favor, because while favor in Chinese can refer to 帮忙,
Right?
like help. To us, it's more like, but favor is, but
That's helping out. Yeah, that's like you could bangmang a stranger. You can't Renqing a stranger. You can't give a stranger Renqing.
Exactly.
Okay, so Renqing perhaps also has the concept of Guanxi or relationships.
That'll be in the following episode.
Right, but so you think the concept of relationships, Guanxi, is critical in understanding Renqing.
Yes,
Okay.
because I feel like Renqing will only happen when happen among those people who have intersocial relationship, like Guanxi, with each other. Because if you are strangers, you two have no Guanxi, no relationship, how would that be viewed as Renqing? It's merely just can be viewed as a favor, so it doesn't happen. That's
So-
right.
I think maybe this is just my experience with you because you are a very giving person, but something I've noticed amongst all Chinese is, and when I've started to read more of the pop psychology books, I'll always say I think Chinese are very, very good with interpersonal relationship psychology. This idea of give without counting it, without expecting anything, with just giving.
Yeah.
This idea that eventually it's going to come back to you.
Yeah.
That I think is pretty deeply ingrained in Chinese society. There was this uncle who was talking to me the other day, and he had spent, I think, 40 years in the U.S. He said he had like 4 or 5 master's degrees in the U.S. Very educated guy, very smart guy. He understands Americans well. We were joking, and I'm studying for the language exam. And he was like, can I give you some pieces of advice? I'd like to give you some pieces. I'm going to give you the best pieces of advice. These are what's going to help you to do it. And he goes, but before I tell you, what are you going to give me in return? We'll do it the American way. Jokingly, right? The American way of, I'll give you a little, but what are you going to give me? Right? And it was a subtle joke, but I think it's very pertinent to this conversation of this idea of like, Chinese will just give. And it's like, 没事, like, don't worry about it. Right? And it's tied into Renqing because I do think there's this idea of just Chinese understand the psychology of like when you give and someone else benefits, you actually benefit more as the giver without expecting anything in return. But there's also this idea of like, I'm not going to count it. I'm just going to give. And at some point, when it's when this person's in a position to give it back, it will come back to me. It's not karma. There's no belief in the spiritual or the the non-physical world version of karma, right? There isn't in the spiritual sense of it comes back to you or it'll get you. It's not that, but it's still the sense of like naturally it'll come back if I give. Is that a fair assessment of some of the surrounding components of Renqing?
I would say most of them are from my perspective, I would say it's right. But
So what do you think I got wrong though? What, because I definitely wasn't 100% right. So what was?
I feel like it's the difference with I mean the only part when you say like Chinese people like Renqing is about you give and you don't expect the return. I feel like because it's human nature that when you're input something into some sort of stuff, like the pressure button or something, you will expect the feedback. It's human nature. So, but I feel like it will be the expectation for of Renqing and favor and like a trade is different in Chinese people to their for on their expect. So like I know the American way would be like, oh, we want to be clear about like make sure like both of us will get something from this kind of exchange.
I will do this, you will do that.
Exactly.
We will be quote unquote even.
Exactly.
And I think this idea of give, at least I guess the only way in which, not necessarily the only way, but the main way, and I think both of us have encountered this idea of give in Western context is almost this idea of like when you start a business, right? And you just help and eventually come back to you. But yeah, I think that uncle jokingly was right when he was like, but before I tell you, what are you going to give me in return? I think it's immediate reciprocity, whereas Chinese almost have delayed reciprocity.
Yeah, delayed one. Also, like sometimes the reciprocity where I mean, maybe it will be viewed as like unevenly reciprocity, like it's not fair one, like to most people. But it's fair or not.
It depends on the timeline you're looking at. When you look at, because again, Guanxi is for life.
Yeah.
Guanxi is this idea of I've known this person for decades, right? And like each person you meet, you're almost. I feel like it's a thing in the Western world as well, but in China it's like you might have gone to school with this person and then you didn't see them for 30 years, but when you introduce them, I've known this guy for 30 years. It doesn't matter that there wasn't this gap, but the longevity of that relationship and you're still, right? There is the compound interest aspect.
Social net.
Right.
So let's just back to the Renqing. So I feel like Renqing is like it's not like I just said. Now we can just conclude some of the feature of Renqing. It's like they're not some like just like immediate like reciprocity. It's not just like a mere favor. So it happened. It happened on certain kind of the pre-setting, like they already have some kind of a relationship, Guanxi, and also like Renqing is also something like sometimes they are not. Like just quote unquote like that it's kind of like a trade, like you give me this Renqing, I will give you back immediately and on the same amount or the same quote. Sometimes it can be different. Say like now we're back to that scenario. So Max gave me this Renqing, whether I succeeded or failed to do that, I own Max. So I remember maybe I not write it down, but still I know I own Max or Renqing. But I don't need to return Max immediately. And even if I fail at that, Max still know that he already gave me a Renqing. I receive it. He didn't need to.
But how do I know that you perceived it?
That's very subtle thing.
If we're saying that it's an IOU, it's a favor, and it's going to come back to me, and we're saying there's a long period between when it's going to be returned. What if those 10 years where you're not returning this Renqing to me, I'm like, she didn't even know what I went through to give that initial Renqing to her. So another question is there interest on Renqing? Is there interest on Renqing? If I do something for you now, and in 10 years you still haven't paid me back, do you have to pay me back even more? Or would equal work? Is there inflation in the Renqing world? Is there interest in the Renqing world? Or is it fair? Like, how does that all work? Or do you there's no quantification and this is just such an American mindset?
I know. That's something we're going to like dive into.
Let's dive into it.
Yeah. So where am I? So now, like before, like we have some simple like summary about the feature. Now we're concluding about Renqing. Now we're going to like, as you said, like I already received your Renqing. Whether if
I hooked you up with that interview.
Yes.
I got you that interview. Okay, so now when we fast forward, how long has it been since I got you that interview? Now that we're getting to the return phase.
Yes. Okay. So I now remember that I owe Max a Renqing.
Yes.
And the thing is, and now I will come to answer your first question about what if how the Max will know like I perceive the Renqing well,
Yes.
and make sure Max will receive some Renqing interest from me.
I would,
Well,
yeah,
that
I
way,
want to
like,
get some
in the short
interest
term
on
or
that.
long
You know,
term.
I get,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Okay, so let's start the first. So let's begin with the first question. I would definitely perceive. So they are the presetting. So as I talked before, Renqing only happens or only survive in a healthy and dynamic Guanxi relationship.
Correct.
Presetting.
Correct.
So if I didn't perceive this as a Renqing, which means in the short term, or which means Max and I are not friends, or will not be friends in the future. Because if I didn't perceive the Renqing like so many times, we're definitely not gonna be friends.
So are we keeping in touch? Is that how we know we're still in this Guanxi world? Like, am I still sending you a happy Chinese New Year text? Like, is that how we know? Are we still in contact? How often? Because now if we're bringing this term of Guanxi, which we will go into deeper next time, right? But like, how do we know we're still in this social net that's the prerequisite for Renqing?
Just to cut it
I'm throwing a lot of questions at you. I apologize. Take them one at a time. I will start to shut up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start with the first, also very important question. Question is like, how do we know if the person perceives your Renqing?
Yes.
The thing is, if you decided to become I do mention now in the Chinese society, it may not universally apply to all of the relationship, whether friendship or whatever things. Let's just say like generally, when people have relationship with each other, which means they knew this person will perceive their Renqing well. At least they understand how Renqing works. So at this pre-setting, when Max offered me a Renqing, because we have like it's like a common knowledge for us. Our relationship built on the common knowledge of Renqing. Without
Yes.
that, Max won't offer.
But we would never talk
Renqing.
about it explicitly. We would never explicitly talk about the Renqing. So
Exactly.
what hints or what indicators are you going to be giving me to where I understand, you know, the effort or the sacrifice or whatever it was that I did to get you that interview? Are you what am I looking for to make sure you understand that?
Okay, that's actually a very interesting question, and I appreciate you bringing it up. That's the second question. So say that we already finished the first question. So how do you know the person will perceive your Renqing? Because it's a preset. If they can't perceive that, they are not going to have relationship.
I know you're getting excited. I just need you to talk into the microphone here.
So sorry.
Here, just move it with you. Just be fluid with it.
Okay.
Whenever you move, just
Thank you.
yeah.
Offer me another Renqing.
Sure.
Help me know that. Okay.
Make sure you pay me back for that.
Okay, I will. Don't know when. So the next step is like it's like maybe like the second one be like now we know like
How do I know? What are the what behavior, what indicators are you giving me for me to understand? You know, I gave you Renqing.
And also with that kind of effort you put in.
How does the receiver demonstrate to the giver that they understand that this Renqing was given? What can I look for?
Yes, that's something we need to differentiate, because sometimes maybe I just maybe just like repost something to you. Maybe it will be helpful to you, but it can be counted as Renqing because the effort I put in that is not that much. So generally we don't review this kind of behavior as a
returning the
yes.
returning
So right now we're like quantifying like to what extent will both of the person will review this as a Renqing.
Right, because never would when we do this, it's like I owe you, man. Like I owe you one. You Chinese people would never be like I owe you. It's almost like unsaid and understood that this will be returned, but you would never say I owe you.
Well, this is actually a tricky part, and also like I said, all the following content were not universally applied, so I just give my personal like some thoughts about that. So generally, when a person offer you, say that it's a pre-setting, you already know each other, you have relationship. If he or she trying to offer, say it's like, well, back to scenario, a scenario will be easier for the audience to understand.
Okay, so I just hooked you up with the interview. Are we back on the interview?
So
okay.
back on the first time, when Max offered me the interview, whatever is on the call or on the message, he won't just like just repost as some of the introduction of the company, and maybe because I would say, oh, it's just a repost or something. But what if he's not only just give me this information, but also have some, like just give me some information, or just let me know like, oh, I think that this position will suit for you, and also like it could be more information and tell you, and also he or she will, maybe Max will give me more some information about, oh, I have some connections, or maybe sometimes he will not even be like that strange. If straight out, if you are Chinese, you were. I was assuming you were implied in a very subtle way, like, you can have a try.
Like, I'm not guaranteeing you this is gonna work.
Yeah, you can have a try, and also I feel like your past working experience and your major, your portfolio will be appreciated by those people there.
Okay.
Remember, the more information they're giving to you, it's not a formula, remember, but it's an instinct, and you will understand that if it's just a simple repost, or just like, oh, I've seen it in whatever place. But what if some people just try to like just give you more information and make sure you need to make a wide decision about to do it or not, or they are trying to just set up all the preparation for you, or just try to just help you to get ready for some sort of things. That's kind of the effort. I think it's more than just to repost or something, or just give you some stuff.
When you say repost, you mean, are you saying sharing something that you might have seen?
Exactly, like sharing some link or some whatever stuff. It can be physically some kind of.
So that the repost, as you're saying, or something equivalent, just these small things. Hey, I remember you. The I remember you is a signal of I still owe you. This is not me returning the favor. It's gonna come one day, but I still remember what you did for me. That's what that is.
Yeah.
So that would be the symbol of, I understand it was a Renqing. I'm not repaying you, but I understand what that was, and it'll come back one day.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also I feel like the amount of the efforts people putting on certain kind of stuff which make it become a Renqing is, you, like I said, that's why the pre-setting of you know these people person well, and he knows you well, and you two have certain kind of like relationship, because the amount of the effort should match to the successful rate.
Now what's the so now when we're talking about the return of the favor.
Yeah.
In what, again, it's hard to quantify these things, but in what margin of, like, is it 5% below, 5% above? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, how big does the reciprocal favor need to be to match the original favor, into which no one has any debt anymore?
For the last sentence, like, we don't have any debt anymore. These things will never happen. Never happen. Remember, once you step into the Renqing, Guanxi, miànzi, whatever this kind of word, you'll never
escape.
So all the Renqing,
your death is your only escape.
You will only just increasing, which is a good thing for people who want to reach to a higher level of this society. If you were, for sure. If some people like they don't have any debts, probably means they don't have any social relationship in this kind of society. And I feel
you need help. You need help.
People all need help.
Yeah.
So this giving and receiving things will be endless.
I want to talk about. So I think we have a clearer picture of it. Since we are the same age, essentially, I think that's kind of the situation we just kind of covered. What if an older person is helping you out a lot?
It's helping what?
What if an older person is giving you Renqíng?
Give me
Are they
Renqíng.
doing that in the same? Because let's imagine some 70-year-old person who's in a powerful position. They know a ton of people. They can so easily help you compared to in the position we are in to help them. Are they doing these things with the expectation that we might return it? Or when you get into intergenerational Renqíng, is it the same rules don't really apply anymore?
It's great. I mean, for people who like have like higher social status or have like also like powerful than you, the Renqíng they offer to you and also their expectation about your return.
They're not as worried about it.
You're not worried about that. Sometimes they offer you a Renqíng because they might view you as, or they might just being kind. But also, my assumption will be, if you're being offered a Renqíng from some people who are like higher level than you, which means he or she think you are like you'll become like a dark horse in the future.
You're a prodigy. You're a prodigy.
Yes.
And them helping you will further progress this idea of you being able to achieve that goal.
Also,
but are they doing it with the idea that when you are in that position, you'll be able to pay it back? Or because I'll say the reason I'm saying this is like, I feel like I've experienced this a lot in China where there's these older people who really like genuinely want to help you. And it's less in this idea of Renqíng. I feel like there isn't an IOU because how do I even return it to this person? What can I even do for them that would be of equal help to them as they have helped to me? And so I feel like and I think, again, this is another thing we'll talk about, but like that intergenerational relationship in China, like there is this like pure, genuine desire to help younger people from older people. And so I'm wondering if that falls into this category of Renqíng or if this is something completely separate that we'll save for another day.
Remember, when you say like all old people generally want to giving to young people, remember, it will be called Renqíng only in the pre-setting of they know each other. They have certain kind of at least basic relationship.
Right.
Not strange. If it's strangers, if the old person giving something to you, whether it's a favor or something, even if it's like a really big opportunity, it will be called Renqíng only after when you actually build up relationship. Then you start thinking, I owe he or she a Renqíng long time before.
You would never say that, but you're saying in your mind. You wouldn't verbally say I owe you, but
exactly,
you're right.
Exactly. And also,
and there's interest on that Renqíng.
Exactly.
There's compound interest on that.
And also, like for sometimes, like you said before, if some old people, like they're at higher social level and powerful than you, give you a Renqíng, sometimes what you expected is not like. I mean, it will be great. It's sometimes you can call it also like a social investment. Like I just invest my kindness a little bit. You know, investment always comes with risk.
Additionally.
So sometimes the interest will be zero, or I mean, the worst case scenario will be there's no return. But
I don't think there will be no return. But the familial unit in China and the familial unit's integration into other family members, Guanxi, an older person helps me out. Okay, before they pass away, I never have the opportunity. I haven't reached my dark horse level where I could return that favor to them, whether in monetarily or an equal-sized favor that's not monetarily related.
Yeah.
If I return it to their kid, then I am returning the Renqíng.
Yeah.
We're getting the low battery mode on our monitor, so I think this could be a separate concept.
Exactly.
But this idea of Renqíng and miànzi in a familial intergenerational context, that the miànzi that you give the parents, the children are also benefiting from, they're also benefiting from. I think that's a good segue into, I'll put at the end of whatever this is, a link into the next, whatever that episode ends up being, this idea that it's all integrated with the family.
And also, before we start to wrap everything up, I would say Renqíng is something like mixed with favor,
reciprocity. And
also,
there's an emotional aspect as well.
Emotional aspect. And also I would think like Renqíng to like from what I learned from this discussion will be Renqíng is something only have when you have the preset, like you have Guanxi. And And so miànzi is something come with, go along with
miànzi
Renqing.
or face is what we just talked about before. We're now talking
Yeah.
about Renqing, and now this idea of Guanxi relationships, I think, is what we'll talk about in the
Yes,
next episode.
but I feel like these concepts are interplayed and also they are
100%.
pretty important.
Yes.
So they are very important. So each of them help you understand all of them well. So I feel like Renqing is something like I learned from today is Renqing is something for people to keep their social relationship in a dynamic way. So in order to play around or activate all your social connections, giving Renqing to others and receiving Renqing from others is the way to help people to reach a certain kind of level or get those things done. So Renqing is kind of like, so if the social is a machine, I feel like sometimes Renqing is something how you get, it's like a fuel, like
Right.
how you just keep everything going up. So Renqing only survive when it's just when you are in a dynamic social relationship.
Which we're going to talk about on the next episode.
Yes.
All right. Let's wrap it up before this all dies.
Yeah,
We're
sure.
going to go jam with these uncles on the trumpet,
Yeah, and
actually.
hope-
Saxophone, I think it might
Hope
be.
all things we learned today were
Yeah, no, thank you. I think if this never even sees the light of the internet, I think I benefited from this conversation. So I appreciate that. And I'm going to send you this link. It might be of help to you. Do you get the joke I'm making? Because
Yeah.
I owe you, but I would never say I owe you, so I'm going to share this to you.
Before I say that, I was stressing now you owe me a favor.
All right.
But now
But
it's
that's
like,
so
I don't-
not Chinese to say I owe you. That's the thing. All right. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up.
She's here. All right. We'll see you on the next thing, which I think the next episode, which
Yeah,
we'll talk
until next
about
time.
Guanxi.
Guanxi.
Are we committing to Guanxi?
Yeah.
Let's roll with Guanxi. All right. We'll talk about Guanxi next. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.